My name is Dacia Clay. I'm the audio librarian here at Classical 91.7. While I'm a real librarian, I have a deep, dark secret. I know very little about classical music. I grew up listening to rock, and I know something about jazz. But when it comes to classical, but I really want to learn. So, every week on this show, a classical music expert will give me a piece of classical music they think I should know, and then we'll discuss it. Come learn with me in the classical classroom. Hello everyone, and welcome to the classical classroom. I'm Dacia Clay, and here with me today, back for a record third time, is Mr. Keith Weber. He is a Grammy-nominated producer, a choral and orchestral instructor. He's a vocal coach, a multi-instrumentalist, artistic director of Grace Song, Inc. Keith, welcome back.
Hi, great to be here, as always.
What on earth will you be teaching me about today? You've already taught me so much.
Well, we wanted to talk about choral music or vocal music.
Yeah.
In classical music, and
right.
what does it mean to sing, and what does it mean to sing in a choir, and and how do you tell?
Well, and see, we've talked about opera on the show before,
right.
But we've never talked about the human voice in classical music.
Right.
So I'm excited.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Where do we start?
Well, we're gonna. What I thought we'd start with is some old stuff, some chant from Hildegard. And a group called Anonymous 4 who have a way of singing chant that's really captivating. Of course, when you start with the human voice in classical music or in music, period, there pretty much has to be a text. And so this first form of it, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, when used in church in order to get some words that you needed to say as part of the service into the air, efficiently and effectively, they started writing these wonderful vocal line tunes. Yeah.
And voice, the very first music came from the human voice.
I would imagine, yeah. Unless banging on rocks counts, but
which it could. Yeah. But weren't the earliest instruments sort of based on the human voice? It kind of set the groundwork for what was to come.
Yeah, it's absolutely the original instrument.
So we're talking primordial, fundamental stuff here.
Exactly.
So we should hear some.
Right, this is an old Gregorian chant, Vene Creator Spiritus, or they're wanting the Holy Spirit to come be part of their service.
Yeah.
And so it's an invitation to the forces out there in order to come be with us.
Yeah.
Just one line.
Yeah, it's many voices singing the same thing together.
Right. And these ladies, you can tell that they know what the words mean. And you can tell that they've gotten their act together. Listen to how they sing each syllable. And when they get to each next vowel, it's completely the same.
I see what you're saying.
Right, and it comes into focus. And then also notice how the way that they're shaping the line is precisely the same. They've thought it through, and they've come to an agreement.
Yeah, they sound almost like one voice together.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah. In fact, that throughout classical music, when you start to sing, and when you start to sing as a chorus, the whole point is to get all these many, many, many voices to be one voice. And for people who are singing it to have a point of view about what it is you're singing. And in here, it's very, very clear.
It's so crystal. It sounds like they recorded it in a cave or something.
A lot of these most all of them, the old churches were all stone and had no sound absorbent material. So they all had reverberance, they all had echoes. And so this original style of chant developed
Kind
to
of
have an echo around it, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting because this music, you notice, it just works sonically so well with a large space, whereas something that needed to be very sort of sharp sounding wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And their way with what we call intonation, where there just isn't any difference in the pitch that they're singing. Mm-hmm. They come not only to a clarity of vowel, but a clarity of pitch.
Yeah. And
a clarity of phrasing, which is the turn, the actual shape of a melody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's lovely.
Completely beautiful, yes. And so that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah.
And now, jumping forward, it's kind of a huge jump to what's next. People began to add instruments, of course, to this, and then start to add different voices of the same type, 2 or 3 parts, or 3 or 4 parts, or blah, blah, blah. So
it started getting crazy.
And what's up next is some Bach. Now, this is highly developed stuff, but...
This is like how long after Hildegard?
This is just hundreds and hundreds of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hildegard was 14th century, and this is now 1700s. This is now the 18th century.
Right. This is when we're getting to the classical music.
Right. Well, this is the height of the Baroque now.
Okay.
And I just wanted you to hear how you take these same curved lines, and now you start to combine them in these astonishing ways. This is the opening of the Bach Magnificat, and you hear, after a big instrumental opening, you hear these voices intertwining in order to get the words across, which is, we magnify.
Right.
My soul magnifies the Lord. You're so excited about the power of God that your very person is acting like a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
And
like a human microphone.
Right. Or and like some kind of optical thing that makes it zing. Here we go. And again, there's that linear clarity to each and every part.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's all so precise.
Completely, yes. And yet it's not brittle or antiseptic. It's fully felt, and it's warm, and it's rounded around the edges, but it's completely precise.
Yeah. So we've got...
Yes, so we've got several vocal parts here. In fact, it's 2 soprano parts, and I think an alto... 2 soprano parts, an alto, a tenor, and a bass. 5-part choir.
Yeah, quite a bit more sophisticated than what Hildegard was doing.
With isolated instrumental parts, too. But again, it has the same clarity, and one of my messages today is that's how you tell when someone has a point of view about singing, about some choral music, is that it has a clarity to it.
And when you say that someone has a point of view, you're talking about the composer.
Yeah, I'm talking about, I'm talking about the conductor here.
The conductor,
yeah,
okay.
The person who has gotten the people to sing this way.
Okay.
Right. Every vocal performance reflects a point of view of a conductor.
Ah, interesting.
And you can tell whether it's a clear point of view or not.
I see.
By the way that they sing.
Okay. All right. Well, what comes after this? I mean...
Well, in Atlanta, there was a conductor named Robert Shaw who had a really great point of view about most of the music that he approached. And he had a tradition going there, a singing tradition. And so we're going to listen to the Haydn Creation, a movement out of there. And this is now a big choir. This is 100 singers.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
But he gets them not only to sing with this vowel, this clarity of vowel and shape and everything, but he gets them somehow miraculously, rhythmically to do the same thing. So
all those people.
all
doing
these
the
people.
Same
Yeah.
thing. So I have no idea what a typical size for a choir is, or if there's a typical size.
Well, there's not, and it just depends on fashion.
Okay.
Depends on the taste of the period. In fact, the Handel Messiah.
Uh-huh.
It became a fashion after it was premiered by very small choirs to start doing them in mob scene performances with as many as 6,000. I know of one performance in the late 19th century where people sang Messiah with 6,000 singers.
Holy crap.
Yeah. It just became a thing.
I guess that makes it very powerful.
Yeah, it also makes it kind of hard to hear, but but it is powerful.
And it makes the stage really cramped.
Yeah. And
So-
it varies. And so what Shaw had to work with was the Atlanta Symphony Chorus, which was, a group that varied between 60 and 100 and some.
Okay.
Depending upon what the piece were. Right?
Okay. Well, let's hear some of this one.
So here we have full symphony orchestra, which is a little heavy for Haydn anyway, but you see how he managed to get them bouncy and full of life?
I
You
hear
hear
that.
that stage full of people bouncing around together, exactly together.
Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, it's got to be
It's hard to do.
the work that you have to put into to
Right.
synchronize that many voices. Yeah.
But listen to how you can hear the top of the choir, the middle of the choir. You can hear the soprano, the alto, the tenor, the bass. It coalesced finally around 4 parts.
Can you, and this is a little bit off topic from what we've been talking about, but can you talk to me about the difference between choral music and opera singing?
Oh, gosh. Yes, well, you mean opera choruses? Or there's, operatic solo singing is a whole separate beast.
Yeah.
Choral singing is trying to make your voice join with your neighbors in order to create a special resonance that is just the community, trying to make one sound. And to make some kind of a color that makes sense of the whole piece. Whereas in opera, you might have, people slitting their throats and going crazy and screaming
Right.
and, blah, 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 depending upon what's up
Yeah. Okay.
at that very moment.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
You won't have a lot of people dying.
In
Your
choruses,
typical choral.
if you do, it's a bad day.
Right. Although Shaw had a funny thing that he used to tell me. He said, you really need to get some space here, or you need to tell your neighbor to move away and get some space, or you'll bleed.
Well, I
He would
remember
tell people.
when I was in choir as a
Yeah.
kid, like we were practicing for like a big performance, and there were all these kids passing out.
What?
Yeah, like they would lock their knees.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you
And
have
take
to.
a stumble.
Yeah, you have
I
to be
mean,
careful.
it's dangerous work. It was after that I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not falling down on some
Yeah,
rafters.
no. You have to be careful, and some people make you stand too long.
So it was
in
our choir
bad
teacher.
conditions. Yeah. If that's happening, somebody hadn't thought through the environment
I don't think so.
very
I
clearly.
don't think so. So,
But anyway, these people, you can tell by, again, listening to the verticality of it and the horizontality of it. You listen to whether the vowels are meeting, you listen to whether the lines are together. And in this case, they are absolutely.
the practice that must go into that.
Well,
just-
it's getting people to be of one mind, getting 100 or so singers to actually buy into one concept is it's quite a job. Yes.
yeah, it's lovely.
It requires credibility,
Yeah.
and it requires an idea to start with. As a conductor, you have to have a clear idea.
Well, what comes next?
Well, I've brought something. Now, a lot of us Americans, choir directors, first had a sense of what a point of view meant when we heard the recordings of a British choir, a British college choir. Now, this is all men. It's men and boys. So the basses and the tenors are their appropriate guys, but the alto part is sung by men, adult men, singing in their falsetto.
Yeah.
And then the soprano line is kids, is little boys. The one that recorded and that we heard was a place called King's College in Cambridge. They started making recordings in the 50s, and good ones. And so what I've brought is this marvelous, it's now an 8-part piece. This is a double choir piece called Fair is the Heaven by William Harris. And this starts to get really astounding in its colorfulness. And the two choirs kind of bat each other around.
Yeah.
You'll hear them interact. It's quite entertaining and hard. One chorus, the other chorus. And now do you hear the sound of that from the top to the bottom? Has a real clarity, although it's quite different than the mixed male-female choir.
Yeah.
This has a straighter edge.
Yeah. Huh. That is a really different sound
It is quite.
than a
But this is
mixed choir.
this was something that was inspirational to a lot of us.
It sounds almost like a throwback in a way. The sort of spaciousness of the room that they're performing in.
Right. Well, this is the King's College has one of the great rolly-aroundy, reverberant acoustics.
And it's very the lines of the music flow together.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Although it's a little sharper than Hildegard.
Very fun to listen to.
Wow.
Here's the one choir, other choir, tossing back and forth across the chancel.
So this piece, tell me about the piece they're singing.
Oh, it's pretty great. It's early 20th century cathedral music. It's written for a cappella choir, for unaccompanied choir, and it's meant to be a challenge for the two choirs to sing in tune. And, for example, here's coming a key change where they sing up a half step and the whole tonality changes. Very, very hard to keep your bearings.
So you said it was written to be difficult.
Written
for
to be a
singers.
challenge.
Okay.
Absolutely. This this 8-part piece is meant. It just throws curves at people continuously in terms of tight harmonies, meaning that there's not a lot of ordinary chords. There's interesting chords that you have to know what you're doing in order to even find your note in the chord. See, for example, these chords right here. See, they have very...
And I assume that's because the composer has a deep-seated dislike of choral singers.
Oh, no. He's what he's trying to do is let them demonstrate their abilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I see. Yeah. So it's kind of like a show-off piece.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Complete show-offy piece. Absolutely.
So we've gone from sort of a sparse human, sort of a cappella to mixing music in with the singing,
Well,
to having a full symphony orchestra and like 100 singers, and now we're back to 20th century music that's a cappella.
right. That's
What are the... I'm not even quite sure how to ask this question. So, they seem like two very sort of different sorts of music to me. There's
Right.
classical music that has voice in it.
right.
And then there's a cappella music. And
Right.
they seem like
Well, they're all
very
classical
different
vocal
styles
music.
almost.
Well, they are. There's a wide variety of styles
Yeah.
in both a cappella singing and accompanied singing, or in, choral orchestral, or just choral unaccompanied. There's as much variety in that realm of classical music as there is anywhere else. You can find all sorts of things. What I've brought today was just a little smattering of some of the best people who have what I'm after here, which is this point of view about the sound.
Yeah.
They have a sense of themselves and a sound that they're trying to make and a way of singing the music
Yeah.
that reveals what's there.
Well, and you can see, like, the one thing that is consistent between all of the pieces that we've heard is, like you said, there's this, like, top to bottom
Right.
sort of unity, I guess.
Right. It's a clarity both ways, vertical
Yeah.
and horizontal.
Is that something that's particularly difficult to do with
Oh,
a human
gosh, yes.
voice,
Well, sure.
as opposed to, using an instrument?
Yeah.
Like, it's
It's harder for a group of singers to get their act
complex.
together than a group of string players.
Yeah.
Because, a group of string players is, they're taught to be more precise, just generally. Yeah. So it's kind of amazing when groups of singers pull off ensemble clarity.
Was that the...
And their voices actually do become instruments.
Yeah. Was that the last piece that you had today?
Well, I brought a couple of things. I brought one just to talk about another American
good.
tradition.
Let's hear
One
more.
is yes, and this is in Minnesota. There's an amazing choral tradition, not only of singing but also of composing. And the great American composer Dominic Argento has written some stuff for the Warland Singers. One of which is this great piece about Walden Pond. It's for choir and 3 cellos. And these people have such clarity to their musicianship that it's kind of unbelievable. Have a listen.
Okay.
This is the first movement of On Walden Pond. You can tell what the chord is. And they're all making the same burnished, beautiful, healthy, well-produced, easy sound.
Yeah. They're very... mellifluous.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's like no break. They just
Right.
flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Recent years, this Minnesota tradition is something really special. There's just sensational choirs in Minnesota.
I guess it's because people in Minnesota needed something to do indoors.
Well, it's because they're polite. They're polite and respectful and
Just makes them sing.
do what they're told.
Minnesotans are awesome. We love you, Minnesota.
We do. They have a vocal technique, they have a sound, they have an approach to their music. I mean, you can tell what they think about this music.
Now, is this a group that has a standard sort of... Is it composed of a standard set of people, or is
Yep,
it somebody?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they
Like-
sometimes don't use them all, but it was A group of 40, 50 singers. They're fully
see.
professionals. A professional choir, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, where everybody is paid to know what's up.
Not like Menudo when they kick you out when you become a certain age.
Right.
Hello, I'm Dacia, and I've just aged myself.
But it's beautiful stuff. And there's composers up in Minnesota that understand about the choir as an instrument, and they write well for the choir.
They write for that choir?
Right.
Wow.
Well, they're not for this choir, but for choirs
choir.
in general. There's a general understanding of how choirs work.
And again,
Right.
you talked about the conductor's vision.
Right.
And would you say that's the case with these guys too?
Yeah, absolutely, completely.
Yeah.
Completely. But it's easier where there's a tradition.
Yeah.
It's easier for even not so strong conductors to have a good success.
Now, when you say tradition, I'm
A singing tradition that is passed on, literally.
from generation to generation.
Right, from generation
Okay.
to generation.
That's what I assumed
Through
it
schools
meant.
and colleges. There is a singing tradition. You're just expected to know how to sing in tune and to make a nice sound.
Like an institutionalized tradition where this
Correct.
is like, okay,
Right.
you come into this as a kid, you go
That's
into
right.
okay.
And we even have that here in Texas.
Yeah.
Good
like,
one.
Where?
All over Texas. It's in the public schools.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
did have very strong choir in our school. It was always a thing that everyone was involved in.
Right,
I mean, there was the tryouts. It was
Yeah, all over
you know.
Texas. There's strong choral programs.
It never occurred to me that might be different elsewhere. I just assumed that everybody sang.
No. Oh, no. No.
You've blown my mind.
But they've, it requires leadership to create a long-standing tradition. And it caught on here in Texas, and it persists.
Yeah. Even
And
places you
rather
wouldn't
take
think
it
of as-
take it for granted. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally did. I never even thought for a second that any other child in
Yeah,
America had a different experience from me in school.
It's a beautiful thing. Music education is a beautiful thing.
Wow, yeah, it is. Cool, Keith. By the way, we should start calling you Cool Keith. I think that's obvious, and I can't believe we haven't done it before. Keith, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Always a pleasure.
We'll have to do it again.
Please.
Okay.
I have a bunch of stuff that
Cool.
I want to talk about.
Nice. All right. Well, guys, that about does it for this episode of Classical Classroom. For more Classroom, go to houstonpublicmedia.org/classroom or to soundcloud.com/classical classroom, where you can find all of our shows, everything we've ever done. You can subscribe to Classical Classroom on iTunes and listen to us on Stitcher Radio. Don't forget to like us, rate us, follow us, what have you. Thanks today to audio producer Todd Tasty Hulslander for twiddling knobs, to program director St. John Flynn for his steadfast, unwavering, strong-jawed, looking off into the distance meaningfully guidance, to Keith Weber for his repeat visits, to me for saying stuff, and to you, dear listeners, for listening. We'll catch you next time.